This is the data. It brings you closer to the action, closer to the adrenaline. It connects you with other fans, makes you feel part of the crowd. It reveals new perspectives, unlocks hidden insights wherever you are. This is the data. Data is a game changer.
Yesterday on day 4, five-time champion Roger Federer put on another clinic in Arthur Ashe Stadium. Also heading into round 3 are Andy Murray, Stan Wawrinka, Simona Halep, and Petra Kvitova. But last year's runner-up, Caroline Wozniacki, she was upset in a third-set tiebreak. Today, we'll see Serena Williams. Her sister will be in action Venus, along with Madison Keys, Novak Djokovic, Rafa, and defending champion Marin Cilic. This is day 5 of the U.S. Open, and you're watching Inside the Baseline, presented by IBM. Well, fans streaming in today to cooler conditions. It is cloudy overhead, still a bit humid today, but not expected to be as hot. And once again, we say good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 5 Inside the Baseline, presented by IBM. I'm Sam Gore. Going to bring in Jimmy Arias now. And Jimmy, the men's seeds are getting through pretty comfortably so far, with the exception of Murray being pushed yesterday. However, the women's seeds are falling like flies.
It's strange these days. Only 3 of the top 10 women's seeds are into the 3rd round of the tournament so far. There's a lot of depth in the women's game, and maybe they're lacking slightly at the very top, except, of course, for Serena Williams. The men seem to be so consistently winning the top seeds. We talk about the Big 4 all the time, but it almost feels like the Big 8 are always there. They're always going to make their appointed rounds, it seems, and that's the case this year.
Well, you mentioned the men's seeds. Let's check out some highlights from yesterday's action, and we will begin with 5-time champion Roger Federer. Federer playing at night, but dressed in all white, and he looked very good.
He's played ridiculous tennis the last couple of tournaments in Cincinnati and now through 2 rounds at the U.S. Open. I wasn't sure if at the U.S. Open he was going to be quite as aggressive, quite as free-flowing, running in, returning serve off the half volley and hitting it, but he's been exactly that. Federer, for 2 matches in a row, at least at the Open, barely losing games. He gets done in 45 minutes. I mean, it's unbelievable. At 34 years old, he's playing the best tennis he's ever played in his life.
Andy Murray struggled yesterday. I know you called this match for television. What were your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts were Andy Murray didn't look like he wanted to be on the court for the first couple of sets. They were both close. This was triple break point for Murray to get back in that set, to get to a tiebreak. He doesn't break serve there. But then this point seemed to really start getting Murray's juices flowing for the first time. He showed some positive emotion. He was going crazy the first 2 sets, sometimes looking at his box and swearing at them, sometimes laughing towards them. I didn't know what was going through his mind. In the end, he got it right the last couple of sets in an easy 6-1 in the 5th.
Well, one milestone he hit yesterday, he hit his 14th 100 winner at the U.S. Open. And, of course, these statistics courtesy of IBM. Stan Wawrinka also in action, and Stan, I wouldn't say has looked great, but he's managed to get through his first couple of rounds.
I'd say he hasn't looked great at all, and he still hasn't dropped a set. Having said that, he keeps going to tie breaks. This was against a teenager, Chung from Korea, and they had some nice points. When you see the highlights from Wawrinka, you say, what are you talking about? He's winning in straight sets, he's playing great. It's just in between the highlights, if you actually watch the match, he's making a whole lot of unforced errors, interspersed with great shots. He's going to have to clean those errors up.
That's like golf. We only see the good shots in the highlights. John Isner hit a lot of good shots yesterday. Isner's had a couple of weeks off, Jimmy, and normally he plays grueling matches, but he has surprisingly gotten through his first 2 very comfortably.
Look, all of a sudden, Isner, this is what we've been waiting for years. Not 4 or 5 sets with 3 tie breaks in each match through the first couple of days, first couple of rounds. Maybe he has enough energy in the tank to make a push into the second week. The problem for him is if he does make the round of 16, he's got Roger Federer, and I'm not sure if Federer can run up and half volley his serve.
I don't know. That'll be fun.
Seems like that would be dangerous.
It'd be fun to see him try. Jack Sock was one of the victims of the oppressive heat and humidity yesterday. He was playing Ruben Bemmelmans of Belgium. A lot of people thought this was a match Sock would win, but he struggled with the conditions as much as the Belgian.
Well, look, I think he probably would have won it if he could have handled the heat. He won the first 2 sets, and things start to go bad for Sock in the 3rd set as he gets a little bit tired, and then by the 4th set, he's done. As you can see, cramped up, tried to walk, tried to play, but eventually he had to call it no mas. Just broken in that game, and that was it.
As a sad end to Jack Sock's U.S. Open, a very hot and humid day yesterday. One of the thrilling matches of day 1 actually took place last night. We saw the U.S. Open career of Leighton Hewitt end at the hand of Bernie Tomic. Hewitt almost won that match.
Hewitt was being Hewitt, wasn't he? He came back from 2 sets to love down, nearly found a way to beat his young compatriot, Bernard Tomic, but Tomic got him in the end in a tough 5-setter.
So we say so long to Leighton Hewitt. And we're going to be transitioning over to the women in just a moment, Jimmy. But it is interesting to see how all the seeds have been falling. But this is one who's been standing strong. Simona Halep looking good here at the U.S. Open after a nice summer.
She did have a nice summer, a couple of finals in the warm-up tournaments to the U.S. Open. She does seem to feel the pressure this year in Grand Slam play. Hasn't done as well at the majors. Maybe this is her chance. A lot of the top seeds that we've mentioned have fallen by the wayside. In some ways, that adds a little extra pressure. This was not the most comfortable match for her. It was a tough straight setter. I know it's 3 and 4, but it took a while to get through.
Yeah, Bondarenko, a former quarterfinalist here. Petra Sikowska against Caroline Wozniacki. This turned out to be one of the more dramatic matches on the women's side. It was last night.
Yeah, this was amazing stuff. Sikowska down early in the first set, but was able to rally her way through and eventually take the first set. Was up a break in the second set as well. And then Wozniacki started to fight her way and get back into the match, taking that second set 7-5, and now double match point for Caroline Wozniacki. And you're sure after making a comeback, a set and a breakdown, this match is over. But Setkoska fought through that first match point, another winner to save the next match point. A 3rd match point now for Wozniacki. Setkoska again with the clean winner. And now we're talking about, we're getting past midnight, 1 in the morning type of stuff. Finally goes to that final set tiebreak, and it was all Setkoska surprisingly in the tiebreak.
Love that reaction. She was fired up as she takes out Caroline Wozniacki, the runner-up from last year. Petra Kvitova, one of the players people say in terms of tennis can challenge Serena Williams for the title here, the 2-time Wimbledon champion against American and Stanford alum Nicole Gibbs.
Well, look, Kvitova has the weapons, as you'll see in this brief highlight package. You're going to see her just bludgeoning winners from all over the court in different spots. And obviously when she's on her game, a couple times at Wimbledon she's won the title. When she's on her game, she's not afraid to win. And she does have the weapons to be able to beat Serena. That would be the one player really that would worry Serena, I would think, throughout this tournament.
Kvitova hasn't always enjoyed playing in New York, but she has enjoyed her first 2 rounds so far. Another player who loves New York is Victoria Azarenka, seeded number 20 this year. That's her lowest Grand Slam seeding, or lowest U.S. Open seeding since the first time she ever played here.
Having said that, she's the second odds favorite to win the title before the tournament starts, so the odds makers thought she has a chance. I like her fire. I mean, she's definitely pumped up. She wants to do well here. She loves New York. And look at her. She's excited. She's unlike Kvitova. Azarenka is dying to make it to the finals.
Good Serena impression. Azarenka moving on after her 2nd round win over Wickmeyer, and that's a look at some of the 2nd round winners all moving on to the 3rd round. It's time now for our IBM More Than the Score feature, and today the big question is, what's more important, the serve or the return of serve?
I say the return of serve is more important today than the serve.
I would have to say the return of serve. I think everyone has gotten so good at serving that I feel like you're comfortable serving and you can break once or twice and you're good.
For the men, definitely the serve is the most important over the return, just because a good server is always going to get so many more cheap points and free points than a good returner is. And for the women, I actually can't really say with clarity. I know Serena serves very, very well, but others really rely on their returns to get ahead in the points to start off. That's why you generally tend to see many more breaks on the women's tour than the men's tour.
If you like big serves, 10th seed Milos Raonic takes on 18th seeded Feliciano Lopez for a spot in the 4th round of the U.S. Open. Raonic has not lost serve in his first 2 matches, firing 35 aces and holding all 36 of his service games while saving the 10 break points he's faced. He's also hit the fastest serve at the 2015 U.S. Open so far, 147 miles an hour. And by the way, threw in a 135-mile-an-hour second serve just for fun. Lopez has hit 33 aces in his first 2 rounds, hit a top speed of 135 miles an hour, but has struggled a bit when he's had to hit a second serve. He's won just 47% of second serve points through 2 rounds. Lopez put 58% of his first serves in play and will need to be better than that against Raonic. Now these two have met 6 times, each winning 3. Lopez won the most recent meeting last month in Cincinnati, 7-6-6-4, and it was a match that featured just 1 service break in 22 service games. Would you believe that 16th seeded Sara Errani advanced to the 3rd round with the following stat line? She's only held serve 4 times in 3 sets. Her serve was broken 9 times. Her top serve speed was just 87 miles an hour. She won 34 of her 86 service points. She only hit 11 total winners, while her opponent hit 53. She won 84 total points. Her opponent won 91. So how'd she do it? Return of serve. Errani broke serve 8 times in the final 2 sets and made a total of 15 unforced errors over those 2 sets. Her opponent, Jelena Ostapenko, held serve just once in the final 2 sets after losing only 5 service points in the opening set. The match score, love 6, 6-4, 6-3, as Errani used her amazing court coverage and shot variety to test the patience and finally frustrate the 18-year-old Ostapenko into 43 unforced errors over the last 2 sets. So what do you think? Reach out to us via Twitter or Instagram at hashtag IBM Game Changers. That is hashtag Game Changers IBM. Jimmy, want to talk about the preview of the matches today because we've got another dramatic day on tap, especially on the men's side.
Well, look, first up is Novak Djokovic that we're going to talk about. He's the guy that everyone thinks is the man to beat at this tournament every time he comes in. And he certainly is the man to beat, and he plays Andreas Seppi in his first match. And Seppi's the kind of guy that doesn't quite have the weapons. He's a great player. Somehow he beat Federer at the Australian Open. He's a solid baseliner, but the serve just isn't good enough, I don't think, to bother Djokovic. So I like Djokovic there.
How about Nadal and Fognini? That's an interesting matchup.
That is the match of the day, really. We have to say that because these two guys had a nice altercation when they played in Hamburg, where Fognini crossed over to the side of the net. They had some words. I love seeing that kind of stuff. I expect more of it. Nadal has lost twice to Fognini this year on clay. Did beat him in that Hamburg final. Celebrated after he won that as if he just won Wimbledon. That's how excited he was to beat Fognini. That should be some fireworks in that match.
How about Cilic and Kukushkin? Kukushkin's a name that's kind of sliding under the radar. People may not be familiar with him.
And then we're going to probably keep sliding him right out of the tournament. In our mind, in my mind at least, Cilic seems to love it here at the U.S. Open. He won last year, obviously. I've seen a quote of his saying, he was hitting the ball fine at Wimbledon, but now he's really feeling it again. He loves it here all of a sudden, and I expect him to keep that train going.
Well, let's transition over to the women's matches for today. Serena Williams will be in action in Ashe Stadium tonight against Bethany Maddox-Sands. And in terms of marquee value, that'll be a fun match to watch.
That will be a fun match to watch. Serena, you know, when she's playing, it sort of feels like it's always about Serena. If she can keep her nerve, it's tough for anyone to beat her. Maddox-Sands might be someone that if she does get the chance, if Serena doesn't play well, maybe Maddox-Sands is the kind of player that will go ahead and win and not get overly tight. She likes the crowd. She likes these big moments. We'll see if she can keep it together.
Another interesting matchup, Jimmy. The U.S. Open fans are going to finally get to see Belinda Bencic, who's a teenager that Martina Hingis and her mother are coaching at the moment. She's really burst onto the scene this summer, beating Serena in Canada. She plays Venus later today.
It's an interesting match. She hasn't beaten Venus in the past when they've played, but she did beat her sister Serena in Toronto a few weeks ago. She also made an amazing comeback, Bencic, in her match. She was down a couple of match points in her last round. She was crying with tears in her eyes in the middle of a match and somehow still won. So normally if you're crying in the middle of a match and you win, maybe it's your week. She has a chance, and Venus hasn't played her best so far. So maybe Bencic with a slight edge there.
Another matchup, talk about contrast in styles. Madison Keys against Aga Radwanska.
That is a strange matchup in styles, as Keys is going to bring power, all kinds of shot making, and Radwanska is going to try to blunt that power, redirect it, deflect it, play such smart tennis, Radwanska. It's the kind of player that would give Keys trouble. I'd like to say I'd like to see Keys sort of put it all together. She has the tools, the weapons to win a Grand Slam at some point. Who knows? If she puts it all together these next couple of days, it could be her.
Well, we're getting closer and closer to seeing the first matches, but before we let you go, we want to check out Renee Stubbs' latest IBM Game Changers feature.
I'm here with Elizabeth O'Brien, once again from IBM. And Elizabeth, you've been looking at some overall number stats from the Grand Slams this year.
Right, we've been analyzing, first of all, serve speeds and different strategies that players take to their first serve versus their second serve, how fast their first serve is versus, how fast their second serve is. And what we've seen is Serena really takes sort of a moderate risk approach to her second serve. She takes something off, but not a ton. Maria Sharapova takes significantly higher risk on her second serve. High risk, high reward, and sometimes it works, sometimes not. But on the men's side, looking at Djokovic and Andy Murray, really opposite approaches, right? Where Djokovic is sort of a moderate risk on his second serve, Andy Murray takes very low risk. And the question I have really is, what is the right strategy on the hard courts here?
Well, it's interesting. I think it also depends on what kind of player you are. If you look at someone like Serena, she's got such a great service motion, so she's really assured of not only the first serve, but also the second serve and her trust with her movement. Maria doesn't trust her movement as much as Serena, so she gets after the first serve. She also knows she needs to get after the second serve because she doesn't want to be on the defensive. With Djokovic, he's a little bit more aggressive on the second serve because, again, I think technically he gets after the second serve better. Murray relies a lot on his movement, and he also doesn't want to sort of make mistakes. So he's okay with running around on the court and getting in trouble. The problem is for Murray on this particular court as well, you can't always be defensive because it's still fast conditions. The court's fast and the ball's through the air fast. But he's also an unbelievable mover. They're both amazing movers, but I think Novak doesn't like to be defending as much as Andy.
Right, well, speaking of movement, we took a look also at how much these players are moving and how efficient they are. In particular, we looked at the Final Four women at Wimbledon, and Serena, if you look at the numbers, ran significantly less than any of the others. Sharapova ran a little bit more, but not the most. But is it because of her serve that she's able to be so efficient with her movement, or is it a combination of serve and return?
I think it's a combination. I think it's obviously the serve. She dominates right away from the first shot. And then the second, also on the return, she likes to step in and take advantage. Also to the people, of course, Radwanska, who doesn't possess a big serve at Wimbledon, so she's going to be defending quite a bit. And Muguruza, who was sort of a surprise semi-finalist and then eventual finalist. But for me, it's all about the dominance on the serve, of course, not getting in trouble off of the return. And then when you're returning, then your ability to be able to control the point from that moment on. So, of course, Serena, being so dominant, doesn't run as much as anybody else.
Right. Well, we'll be watching the movement and the serve numbers for the whole tournament here.
We will. Back to you, Sam.
Thanks, Renee. We are moments away from first ball. Jimmy, final thoughts? What are you looking forward to today?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the last match of the day, to tell you the truth. It's Nadal against Fognini, two guys that I don't think like each other, that have had a couple of tough matches so far this year against 3 matches already, 2 of them going to Fognini. Nadal, there's a lot of question marks about him. We'll see if he can answer some of those questions later tonight.
Yeah, again, that's the second matchup in Ash. Play about to begin all around the grounds. We invite you to join us each day via Twitter or Instagram by using the hashtag #InsideBaseline. For Jimmy Arias, I'm Sam Gore. Go out and enjoy day 5 of the U.S. Open.